Good evening and welcome back once again, race fans, here to the Turn 3 Racing Network. As always, I am Darkside Dave in the cave here with my good buddy Cody up in the booth. Gonna call some great restrictor plate action here for you tonight. Second week in a row, Cody, these RFC NEXTGEN Light Electric Company ARCA Menards K&N Series drivers gonna tackle some high-banked, high-speed tracks. So, yeah, look for another crazy one this week. What do you say?
Yeah, Dave, you're exactly right. Last time out, the drivers took on the biggest track on the schedule, and that was Talladega. We got to see exactly what these cars could and could not do in the draft. And Dave, at Talladega, the biggest talking point was how these front bumpers and these rear bumpers just do not match up. But for the most part, at Talladega, Dave, we saw some really impressive racing, and including a lot of really good pack racing.
Yeah, and I mean, you're gonna see, for the most part, you're gonna see some drafting, but you're not gonna really see that bump drafting, as these drivers have already tested the bump drafting thing out here at Daytona after having the issues at Talladega. They were rechecking, seeing if they could, by some chance, get away with a little bit more bump drafting here at Daytona than what they were allowed to at Talladega. But unfortunately, word from pit road is it's a no-go again. So look for drivers to be right there, but maybe not quite pushing.
Yeah, and Dave, you know, that's probably a crazy thing to have to deal with. But on the other side of things, it might be a little bit of relief, because if these drivers know these bumpers don't match up, then that means they're less likely to maybe, you know, lay the wood to somebody. They're less likely to get up there and give that extra push because they know what's going to be the result. So maybe that will pull back the reins, so to speak, on maybe an extra shove. But that is not going to pull down the intensity at all. As we come into tonight, the points race really starts to heat up, as last time out we saw Tyler Hilton finally take a win up in the column. As far as the win column goes, that really helped him out in the points. But Dave, they're chasing a guy that when it comes to the point standings, once he gets out front, he may be the hardest driver to run down, and that's Katie Osmond.
Yeah, Osmond has been on point all season long, and that's why you can find him sitting on top of the point standings. Cody, you had mentioned Tyler Hilton advancing in the points after the race win, and right there you have it up on screen for you, sitting in the second position. He's got quite a bit to still make up to catch up to KD, but that race win went a long way, put Hilton all the way up there into second. Lance Yancey still sitting very well in the championship standings as we reach the halfway point, sitting right there in third. Brian Maskell Jr. fourth, Brian Snare in fifth, Steve Baker sixth, Brian Littleton seventh, Roy Hyde eighth, Derek Robinson ninth, and Troy Radford having some issues earlier in the season. Finally got that monkey off his back, finally went to victory lane, and then unfortunately Troy having some issues with his feet, not walking very much on his new feet, and he's going to have to get himself another new foot. And best wishes and our thoughts are out there with Troy. We're going to miss you as you recover with your foot injury. But, Cody, I mean, the point standings, there's still a lot of different positions that are going to jockey around here throughout the second half of this season.
Yeah, most definitely. And, you know, we're going to see some totally different tracks. Once we put Daytona out of the way, then we go to a track I know you was talking about earlier in the year. I got my favorite track in, and that was Rockingham. We're going to go to one of your favorites, North Wilkesboro, next week. Then we go to Martinsville, and then we're going to go to Darlington. I mean, just those three tracks after Daytona could make a huge difference in the point standings as we start down the home stretch, so to speak. Then we'll go to Irwindale, and then we'll take on the Roval, which is, you know, I guess you could say totally different than anything. But the drivers that raced at Laguna Seca earlier this year, maybe that was a little warm-up for them. But the rest of the year, when you take a look at the racetracks, we are going to see totally different racetracks the rest of the way, from Myrtle Beach to Phoenix to Texas to Kansas. So as far as the points race goes, This is that old school style of points. It's not one of these where you win a race, you're locked into the playoffs. It don't work that way. You've got to be consistent. Right now, the number one man on top of the points has been consistent, but he hasn't got the victory lane yet, Dave. And I think that's just the one thing for Katie that has not happened that I feel like will happen soon enough.
Yeah, I've got a feeling that Osmond's going to visit victory lane at some point in time in the season. But I mean, with the old school style points, I think it's consistency overrides those race wins. I think you can visit victory lane 2 or 3 times throughout the season, but if you don't back it up with some other consistent top 5s, top 10s, I don't think you're going to be able to walk away with a championship. So I think Katie, although he really wants a race win, I think he'd rather just have the consistent runs and walk away with the championship. I know myself, you can leave a goose egg in the win column if I can walk away with the championship at the end of the year.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. And, I mean, unfortunately for him, his streak came to an end of starts, top 5s, which at one point was up to 6 and 6. 6 starts, 6 top 5s. He comes into this race, Dave, you talked about it, consistency. He's got 8 starts. He's got 8 top 10s and 7 top 5s. So that's a lot of the reasons why he is atop the leaderboard. And, oh, yeah, he's led 192 laps coming into the night as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's been on fire, man. He's been on a roll all season long. Only thing he hasn't really done is been to victory lane. I believe, as you were saying, the top 5s. I think he's finished in every position but first inside the top 5. So Osmond just kind of knocking on the door, waiting for that breakthrough. Could it be here tonight? Because everybody that's in this field here has pretty much the same equal chance of walking away with the race victory. Very much different so than when we go to North Wilkesboro. You're going to have to be on the gas, be on the throttle, and be a little bit more mindful of the tires. Here you just kind of let it all hang out and let it kind of sort itself out for you. With all that being said, looks like qualifying has begun, about a minute into qualifying. And I tell you what, let's go out and check out the 00 of Roy Hyde. Let's see if he's doing what I believe is his candid backwards lap. And no, Roy actually going to go forward around the track this time as we watch him make his way around the track here in qualifying.
Yeah, Dave, I spoke with him earlier in the garage, and I think he's going to try that on maybe his second lap. But, yeah, it has been a tradition for him at these races to have a little fun as he slows down at the start-finish line. Looks like he's going to turn it around and get that 00 into reverse. Now, he's done this at all the racetracks, but, Dave, to do it at Daytona, it takes a lot of talent as he gets up to speed. And, Dave, it's not a slow lap at all. The time won't reflect our pole sitter or anything, but he puts on some speed going in reverse, and that takes a lot of talent.
I can't believe he actually does this. This is kind of actually awesome. I know a lot of drivers, a lot of competitors out there, very serious about everything, and good to see somebody have a little bit of fun with it, not really worrying about the qualifying and things of that nature. So hats off to Roy Hyde, keeping things light here at Daytona, as some other drivers may be pretty nervous and anxious. I tell you what, let's go check on Thomas Light in the 98 as he makes his way around the track on what I believe is his second time lap. Then we'll go check back in with Roy on his backward lap, see how he's doing.
Yeah, as you see Thomas Light working around the racetrack, of course, Thomas had a great start to the season, not really as much luck. Really, Rockingham kind of things started to go south with him, so hopefully he'll get things turned around in that number 98 Light Electric Company Arcadard Chevrolet. As looking at the time charts now, Chuck Mobley goes to the top of the leaderboard. He's got a 49.678, and just as I say that, Dave, there goes Thomas Light back to the top of the speed charts.
Yeah, Thomas Light going back to the top of the speed charts with his second time lap. Now, I'll tell you what, let's venture out there with that 19 of Rick Reinert, as he's actually on his up-to-speed lap, so we'll check in, see if there's anybody else out there. Looks like a few drivers finishing their second time lap, so I tell you what, why not check on that 00 of Roy Hyde? Here he comes. Look at him flying across the line backwards for his first time lap. Where is he going to slot in? Look at that, 7th position. 1:42.87. That, man, I tell you, he's getting it.
Yeah, he just barely missed it. I think it might have something to do with the air pressure. But Roy Hyde, though, I tell you, we've tried all year to try to catch that backwards lap, and we have just somewhat missed it. But we've got it here at Daytona tonight. So hats off to that 00. And as I mentioned that, the 00, of course, he is heavy in the points race as well. You know, he had a win earlier this year at Indianapolis. Of course, he did that going forward, Dave.
Yeah, luckily Roy, when he went to Indianapolis, decided to put the car in the right direction. It walked away with a race win. Roy a little bit behind in the points after missing, I believe he did miss last week. Rig having to be pulled down, things of that nature, and yada, 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 as we watched the 19 go across the track to begin his first time lap. So good to see Roy back on track. Good to see him out there having fun once again. And I tell you what, as it looks like Rick Reinert and Roy Hyde, pretty much the only two drivers out there on track. And I tell you what, Roy, man, he's getting it out there. He's about 90 miles an hour right now backwards. Well, in reverse.
Yeah, and I mean, that takes talent. I mean, just driving in your normal car in reverse takes talent, but to do it at these speeds here at Daytona, it does take a big talent. And by the way, while you mentioned Rick Reiner, talking about speed, the teammates, I guess you could say, of Rick Reiner, of course, Rick rolls out of the stables of Muddy Water Motorsports. Their affiliate, Dirty Air Racing, last week with Tyler Hilton winning the race, fell behind Falcon Motorsports. But Dave, I think it's safe to say now that the team standings here in the RFC Light Electric Company ARCA Menard Series is down to two teams pretty much. Falcon Motorsports, Dirty Air Racing. They've been going back and forth every week. And with Tyler Hilton's win last week, of course, it put Falcon Motorsports back out front. But that's something to pay attention to because, Dave, this is really the last chance this year these teams are going to get to actually work together as far as maybe the drafting aspect.
Yeah, much easier for these teams to work with each other, work with their teammates last week as well as this week. It's a little bit harder to orchestrate pit stops and things of that nature when you go to the 1.5 miles and short tracks. A lot easier to work out a team strategy to try to maximize the team points out of the race if you can. So look for this race to be another big race in that team battle. Falcon Motorsports and Dirty Air Racing, a slugfest back and forth, week in, week out. It seems like every other week there, Cody. The other, if one's leading one week, then they get a knockout slugfest going, and the next man, well, they take over the next week, and then back and forth, and I don't know, maybe Blackhawk's going to surprise us and come out of the woodworks here as these two continue to slugfest.
Yeah, and I look at those team standings and the 8 cars that represent those two teams. They are as solid as any of the cars we have seen on the racetrack. But as the clock ticks away in qualifying, I think for the second time this season, Thomas Light might be on his way to starting on the front row here at Daytona as that clock starts to tick away, Dave, and we get closer to going green here at Daytona.
And as it looks like everybody that's wanted to qualify has turned in their qualifying time, we're going to step away for just a brief commercial break, then head down trackside for the national anthem to get things started off here tonight for the American Brain Tumor Association 50 right here from Daytona International Speedway. Don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back.
The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly wailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets regular, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Backtrack side once again. What a great way to get ready for another great race here tonight on Turn 3 Racing Network. Once again, thank you to each and every one of you out there joining us on the YouTube side of things. We do appreciate each and every time you stop by. And well, Cody, I'll tell you what, let's get down to business. Your starting lineup for tonight's American Brain Tumor Association 80, being brought to you by Michael Massengill. Looks a little something like this. Walking away with the pole position here tonight, driver of that 98, Thomas Light. Starting just to his outside, the 76 of Chuck Mobley, row number 2. Thomas Quattlebaum Jr., followed by the 10 of Melvin Young, row number 3. The 48 of Jimmy Hetrick, followed by the 83 of Brandon Medford, row number 4. The 00 of Roy Hyde, and the 80 of Brian Littleton. Row number 5, the 33 of Brian Mescal Jr. in the 10th position, Kendall Levron.
Rolling off in row number 6, it'll be the 11. It'll be the number 19 of Rick Reiner. And to his outside, the points leader in the 88, Katie Osmond. Rolling off 13th, Matthew McKean in the 24 machine. And the Iron Man of the series, Damon Cox in his 57. He'll roll off 14th. Derek Robertson will roll off 15th. Dustin Ping in his number 116th. Gordon Larson Jr. will roll off in his 01 17th. Two-time winner this season, the 84 of Chris Mefford will roll off 18th. Eric Blunt in his number 6 machine 19th. And second in points, Lance Yancey rolls off 20th.
Inside row number 11, the 45 of Brian Snare, followed by the 86 of Travis Arthur. Row number 12, Michael Massengill, and the 47 of Ray Radford. Rounding out the field in 25th, Mark Vyers, followed by Brian Coffin, and that's going to do it for your starting lineup here tonight for the American Brain Tumor Association 80, live here from Daytona International Speedway. Thanks for joining myself, Darkside Dave, in the cave here in the Turn 3 Racing Network. And Cody, my man, we're set to go green flag racing. Pace car going to get out of the way for the first time. I should say pace truck. These guys continuing to give me what I want, and that's that Chevy Silverado. It's out of the way. Green flag waiting to fly. Green flag in the air as all these drivers nail the gas and looking to almost 3 wide for a minute. Melvin Young looking to the outside of Chuck Mobley there for just a brief moment. Now going to duck down inside goes Mobley right behind Thomas Light.
Yeah, Dave, they're all fighting to get to that bottom right away. Jimmy Hetrick, teammates with that number 10 of Melvin Young's going to let him squeeze in. The top 5 will go nose to tail down the back straightaway. Roy Hyde way off into the apron.
Roy Hyde way off into the apron. It looks like the 19 of Rick Reinert also down there below that double yellow line. Looks like they're trying to head to the back. Looks like that is a calculated move, and here for the second week in a row, we have gotten over that lap 1, turn 1. A little bit of jinx that we seem to have going there for quite some time. Everybody well and clear, clean for lap 1. As we begin lap number 2, Thomas Light leads a long train of single file cars. Not a lot of guys out there running double file. Looks like most of the drivers here, Cody, electing maybe to just go ahead and log some laps early here tonight.
Yeah, Dave, and as you can tell, they're all working that double yellow line, which is their best friend. You want to have a really good defensive weapon, it's that double yellow line. No passing below that line, and right now it's showing true for Hammer Down Motorsports. They have the top 2 spots. Behind them, running in the 3rd spot, Thomas Quattlebaum Jr. Dave, that's a driver that, man, if anybody needs a little bit of luck, it's been Thomas this season. He's had the bad luck bug. Bud comes in here 24th in points. Right now, he is the lone man out because he's got 2 teammates in front of him and then 2 teammates behind him, that being the 10 of Melvin Young and Jimmy Hetrick, that being the top 5. And, Dave, they have started to pull away.
That they have, but we've seen packs develop at Daytona and as well as Talladega, and usually you'll see these packs all come back together. Generally, you'll see these packs break up a little bit later in the race. A little bit soon to be seeing these packs break up the way they are right now, but slowly but surely, Brandon Medford falling to the wayside, and he's got a lot of people right there with him. Brian Littleton right there. Brian Mescal Jr. leading the outside lane, one of the few cars running that second lane. As a matter of fact, I think there's only about 3 or 4 cars on the whole track that are running that second lane.
Yeah, David, that second lane starts to move. Brian Mescal Jr., he's got a little help from Gordon Larson Jr. and Eric Blunt, and they are knocking on, cruising into the top 5. Mescal Jr.'s got a nose into 6th. And look here, Jimmy Hetrick and Melvin Young go to the high side. They're going to try to take the momentum with the 33 of Brian Mescal Jr. They'll go to the high side going into turns 3 and 4.
Yeah, jumping out from that bottom lane up to the high lane to grab the momentum to use it for their advantage. That has pretty much brought that entire second pack right back up there with your front runners. Just a moment ago, just a lap ago, Cody, we had 5 cars with a little bit of a breakaway. Now we've got about 15 cars all within, what is that? Close to about a second of each other from the leader all the way back to 15th position. Oh,
yeah,
big moment for Young.
Young gets swirly up into the outside wall. He collects his teammate, Brian Mescal Jr., and also Jimmy Hetrick involved. I don't see the yellow flag out yet.
Wow, I don't know how they all did not die. Melvin Young back there into the outside wall. He's still got it going forward. I don't know how these drivers kept that straight, Cody, but everybody keeping it straight and going the right direction, so no caution flag flying. That was a big scrum at the front of the field, but what that has done, that has put your front 4 with a massive breakaway. They have now got almost a 5.5 second race lead back to their nearest competition. So look for these 4 drivers just to stay nice, calm, clean, smooth, and single file up here at the front.
Yeah, Dave, I don't know exactly what happened. I was trying to look, but I don't know if he just got a little swirly, maybe got into the door panel of Thomas Quattlebaum Jr. and got loose. I couldn't really see exactly what happened, but as you mentioned, it's took the top 4 and pretty much pushed them out way ahead of the rest of the field as far as 5th on back. And 5th on back is a Hornets nest. Brian Littleton's there, Eric Blunt, Brian Mescal Jr., Derek Robinson, as they work their way across, now make it 7 laps in the books here from Daytona.
And how Brian Mescal Jr. is right here running in that 7th position just behind Eric Blount. I have no clue because he was sideways, then down on the apron. He kept his foot in it and kept it pinned. And I think that may be the only thing that saved him at that point in time and saved his race as far as we are looking at right now, as he's the third car down there on that inside lane. Heck of a job there by Brian Mescal Jr. after that very big moment. Very early, these drivers waving a magic wand and missing the big one.
Yeah, I'll say, because that was right in front of the entire field. But I tell you what, I look to the back of this pack in that 11th spot, and here's a driver we've talked about a couple of times this year. He's got a win this season. Brian Snare just quietly sneaking into the tail end of this field, Dave, and he's brought on the number 4 of Michael Masengill, the official sponsor of tonight's American Brain Tumor Association 80. Look at Masengill, who's had some tough luck this year. He's up 11 spots, though, in that 12th position.
Yeah, and then we've got another pack of cars just behind them, being led by, I believe that is the 84 of Chris Medford, leading another pack of about 5 to 6 drivers. So we do have quite a few different little packs out here very early at Daytona. And it looks like slowly but surely this pack right here that we're watching on screen right now being headed up by that 80 of Brian Littleton. It looks like they're slowly creeping in a tenth or two here or there on that lead pack, on those 4 cars running single file. So the numbers game starting to work into the advantage of this second pack.
Yeah, and right now everybody has got 8 laps on their tires. We'll start to see, we'll see if we can get a green flag run here. Of course, we avoided an early caution there a few moments ago, so anxious to see how these drivers kind of figure out where they want to pit. Because right now, Dave, with that accident, the way things are shaking out, you've got not really a team combination. Now, the front 4, you can go look at the front 4 right now, and you're seeing a little bit of teamwork from Hammer Down Motorsports and Falcon Motorsports. But other than that, everybody's kind of spread out across this Daytona International Speedway.
Yeah, and I'm continuing to look at the timing and scoring, and it looks like we do have a few drivers with some issues. Looks like Jimmy Hetrick has found himself with some trouble behind pit wall, and it looks like they're going to push his 48 machine back to the garage. His day is going to be done with. He'll join Brian Kaufman back there in the garages. Kaufman unable to get the car fired up and unable to get to the starting grid here tonight. So we've got 2 drivers already out of tonight's American Brain Tumor Association 80 here in the RFC Next Gen Light Electric Company ARCA Menards K&N Series, live here on the Turn 3 Race and Network around the track. Once again, lap number 11 out of the 80 scheduled in tonight's official race distance. Back at the front, Thomas Light in his 98 continues to lead this field. Chuck Mobley, Thomas Quattlebaum Jr., and Brandon Medford round out your top 4.
Yeah, Dave, as those 4 continue to work single file, you mentioned it earlier, Brian Littleton, Brian Mescal Jr., Kendall Lebron, and Katie Osmond, they are starting to inch closer to the top 4. Interesting to see what maybe the next 5 or 6 laps break out as the leaders crossing the line, and just now 4th and 5th place crossing the line. So they are closing the gap, not rather quickly, but steadily.
Yeah, slowly but surely is the terminology that I like to use. And oh my goodness, who is that? A Ninja Turtles car I see out there next to Katie Osmond right now?
I do believe it is. It looks like it is Derek Robinson sporting the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle 38 machine here at Daytona. I love it.
And you know what, Derek, you have just received your pass to what could very well be the most TV time of the night, because Ninja Turtles, my man, that is going on screen as much as I can get it there.
Well, Dave, I just now been handed a note from our Turn 3 Racing Network crew. They're saying to check out his in-car. I believe he's supporting some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle green gloves.
Oh my, this is going to be interesting. Let's see if we have one of our in-car cameras here with Derek Robinson. I tell you what, let's cycle through some of our cameras there. We do have one of the onboard camera shots here looking back at driver of that 38 machine, Derek Robinson. And look at that, he does got some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle black and green gloves on, man. That looks sweet as well.
absolutely love that. I see some new paint schemes this week. Loving the new paint schemes. Of course, unfortunately, Jimmy Hendrick involved in that accident, but him and Melvin Young and also Eric Blunt, they're all supporting new paint schemes out of the Hardline Racing stable. So just some cool-looking rides out on the racetrack, as always, here in the Arc of Menards Light Electric Company Series.
Yeah, as we continue green flag racing around the track, lap number 14 out of the 80 scheduled in tonight's official race distance. We did have one big time, almost the big one moment very early in the race, somewhere right around lap 4 or so. A few drivers getting a little out of shape, but keeping it headed in the right direction. So no caution. We stayed green flag racing. Your top 4 have broken away from the field, but since this second pack right here being led by the 80 of Brian Littleton, Brian Maskill Jr., Kendall Levron, Derek Robinson right there as well with the 6 of Eric Blunt. These drivers slowly regaining the time on those front 4, and I believe, Cody, I would probably say the next 5 laps or so, they're going to be right there on the rear deck lid of those top 4.
Yeah,
maybe sooner than that.
Yeah, and if you got to think that Brian Littleton and Brian Maskill Jr., their crew chiefs are on the horn trying to tell those guys, stay in line. There a couple moments ago, it looked like Derek Robinson and Eric Blunt were going to try to go to the outside and make a move, but I'm telling you what, they stay in line, they make it happen, Dave. Here they come, making a charge on the outside.
Yeah, and just like that, I said it was going to take about 5 laps, and then I looked at the gap and the way it was closing, and they are there, and they are there now. Brian Littleton taking the charge on the outside. He's got help with a teammate, a familiar 33, Brian Maskill Jr. right there behind him. Not really pushing. You can't really push. And these RFC NEXTGEN Light Electric Company Arc of Menards K&N Series cars, the bumpers, the rear and the front bumpers not lining up, but there you see it. You don't have to push. You just got to stay right there as the teammates power around the outside and back to the front to take the race lead for the first time. The 80 of Brian Littleton clears the field and works his way around the front stretch. Gonna cross the stripe, officially put the lap lead in his pocket.
Yeah, Dave, and you're starting to see a little bit of teaming up, so to speak. You're starting to see some of the drivers find at least one partner from their stable to work with. But, Dave, I'm impressed. Usually the bottom of the racetrack is the place to be. Man, you take a look at what Brian Littleton and Brian Maskill Jr. just done. They took the long way around and made it work. They put them out front now with 17 out of the 80 laps here at Daytona in the American Brain Tumor Association 80.
Well, keep in mind, Cody, last week at Talladega, we seen that high lane also be the big runner, the big winner. I don't believe that's where our race winner came from, but you get what I mean. That was the line that continued to move and continue to have the momentum, because I think it has something to do with not being able to push these drivers down there on the bottom. They're just not able to push and lock bumpers. So these outside runs are just there, and they're just a little bit more prevalent without you being able to truly bump draft.
Yeah, and something else we saw at Talladega, Dave, was the fact that one car could simply go from 6th to 1st out of nowhere. We've seen Mark Vyers do that at Talladega. He pretty much was dead in the water to the outside by himself, and his car drove all the way to the front. We haven't really seen a car do that here at Daytona yet, but we haven't really seen anybody have that opportunity. But, I mean, we were all scratching our head when we left Talladega last week. How in the world did one car pass 4 cars that were lined up?
Yeah, and it's something that we're not accustomed to seeing. I don't know that we're going to see that here tonight at Daytona, as it looks like most of these drivers electing to jump and make moves with teammates, or at least with a friendly foe, I guess would be the right way to put it. So everybody being a little bit more calculated, and after the big one here already, a few of these drivers' nerves may be a little bit on edge as we continue to work green flag racing, coming to take lap number 20 out of the 80 scheduled in tonight's official race distance, about a quarter of the way through things. And Cody, you do want to take a moment here real quick just to give a big shout out to Everybody out there on the YouTube side of things, thank you for stopping in. Do appreciate it. If you haven't already, throw these drivers a thumbs up. Click subscribe, smash the bell over there on the right-hand side. Get notified anytime we go live here on the Turn 3 Racing Network. Whether it's myself, Darkside Dave in the cave, or my good buddy Cody, hey, it might be Muth in the booth, or anybody else back at the Turn 3 Racing headquarters. We do appreciate each and every time each and every one of you stop by. Troy, big shout out. Thanks for stopping by. I see you over there on the YouTube chat side of things. Wish you were out on track, but brother, wish you well in speedy recovery, and we can't wait to see you back on track.
Yeah, and Troy, we wish you a speedy recovery, man. Look forward to seeing that car back on track, and look forward to seeing what that outside line could do now, as it looks like we are going to see Derek Robertson and Eric Blunt try to take their cars to the front right now. It looks like Black Falcon Motorsports is going to make a run at it. The only two teams, or the only two cars in that stable, or shall I say HRL2 Motorsports. That's what I get for not reading a straight line. And something's up. Ryan Littleton's off pace.
And I think it was just a little bit of a bump there. I think the 33 of Brian Mescal Jr. actually bumped that 80 of Brian Littleton, got him a little bit out of shape, and down beneath that double yellow line. And, well, there you seen it. Freight train, excuse me, beep beep, coming through. And Littleton drops from the race lead all the way back to the 10th position.
Yeah, he drops back, but with that little bump, looks like this is going to leave Mescal Jr. the lone man out. So Thomas Light's going to have to work with him now, as we've got side-by-side racing in the front. Dave, here we go. They'll stack them up. It's Brian Mescal Jr. showing the way. Now it's Derek Robertson. He goes out front. He's got help from a teammate, Eric Blunt, as they drive down the long back straightaway at Daytona.
Clear going into the corner, but his help's not clear yet. Robinson going to stay at the top of the track. Brian Littleton out of shape a few laps ago, leaving his teammate Mescal Jr. at the front of the field to try to maintain the race lead. And driver goes around on the apron. As one driver going around on the apron trying to see who that was. Can't quite see who that was. That may have been, it looks like that may have been the 10 of Melvin Young, actually having another incident down there off the apron. So we stay green flag still here at Daytona International Speedway for the American Brain Tumor Association 80 live here from Daytona International Speedway. On the outside, the 38 of Robinson still trying to dig with that help from Eric Blunt, but Brian Mescal Jr. not having any of it.
Yeah, good teammates there, Derek Robertson and Eric Blunt, because Robertson had a chance to get down in front with Mescal Jr., but he didn't have Eric Blunt clear. He's going to get up there again. Still not enough room. He's going to have roughly Mescal Jr. right on his rear panel as they dive into turn one. Just can't quite get Blunt clear enough to drop to the bottom. David, here comes Mescal Jr. and Thomas Light again.
Yeah, that inside lane accordion back to the front of the field. And as we've got this onboard camera shot looking from the 6 of Eric Blount right there at the rear bumper of Derek Robinson, you get a sense of just how close these drivers are and how much these cars really do move around in all this dirty air.
Yeah, and I mean, it looks like they're just out there just cruising, but they are far from that. These cars are a handful. That incident that happened with Melvin Young earlier, it just looked like air just come off of the front of that race car, and he shoved up against the outside fence. And Dave, we've talked about this multiple times. The rear end of these race cars are so light, and you take the fact that they are pulling and cutting so much air right now. They're cutting a humongous hole in the air going down the back straightaway. One little movement, the tail end of these cars are up and off the ground, and it's mayhem. So credit to these drivers. They're making it look very easy, but Dave, it's not that easy.
Yeah, and I tell you what, these drivers are making look easy. This top 15 right here, they're making it look pretty easy compared to the rest of the field. They've got about a 20-second lead back to this pack right here, being led by the 00 of Roy Hyde. So we've got two very distinct packs, but they're separated by about 20 seconds or so, and nowhere near the numbers in this second pack and nowhere near the organization. So look for some of these drivers in this second pack to maybe be throwing some water bottles out, because I think most of these guys back here, I think they're going to need one of them caution flags to help them catch up to this lead pack.
Yeah, and as we talked about teammates earlier, well, that has now came to an end. Derek Robinson took the lead, and he dropped down in front of Brian Mescal Jr., but luckily enough, Eric Blunt was able to drop in. And here we go. Green flag pit stops are underway.
And it looks like we've got about somewhere right at the 6 to 7 cars hitting pit road, this time by Derek Robinson, Thomas Light, Eric Blount, Chuck Mobley, Kendall Levron, and Brian Littleton all coming to pit lane this time by Brian Mescal Jr. Gonna stay out on track. He's got Thomas Quattlebaum Jr. just behind him. Brandon Medford, Dale, Katie Osmond, Brian Snare will round out your top 5. And just like that, pit strategy now comes into play as we've got some of those drivers in that second pack. They've went ahead and hit pit road. So will this allow them to maybe rejoin the pack, rejoin the track in between these front 2 packs that we seem to have, as this lead pack now coming to pit road with 7 cars?
Yeah, they all dive into pit road. Magnificent job getting those cars woed up and down to pit road. Man, but Brian Mescal Jr., he's on the outside of 3 wide. He's going to have to really work to get to his pit spot as they all juke and jive. But you mentioned earlier that long group of cars that come in on that first pit stop, that second group pitted with that first group. So let's see if maybe some fuel only will help put that second group in play to possibly be up into that front group. We'll see how it shakes out.
Yeah, it's gonna be quite weird there for a minute, as it looks like Eric Blount, he's gonna come down pit road one more time. So I think that 6 machine receiving a penalty as he's coming to pit road once again. And I am not even sure who our race leader's gonna end up being right now, being shown as Brandon Medford leading the field. He's got help with Chris Medford. Thomas Quattlebaum Jr. now taking that 3rd spot. And Thomas, he's already wound up and headed around the track a little bit faster, so look for him to catch up pretty easily here.
Yeah, both Chris and Brandon Medford out front. And then behind them, Thomas Quattlebaum Jr. He's about a good 20 car lengths back. And then Katie Osmond and then Mike Mason-Gill, who's, shout out to Mike, sponsor of the race tonight. And he's been hanging on inside of the top 10 through most of this evening. Now he finds himself in 5th, Dave. 18 spots he's gained. He's picked up the most so far this evening at Daytona.
Yeah, and he's doing exactly what you want to do. You want to just kind of have a calm, well, not necessarily calm, just a quiet night. I haven't really spoke much about Mike here, but there you see him right there running in the 5th position, up 18 spots, I believe that says. Is that 18 or 13, Cody?
I believe it's 18.
That is an 8. Oh, my goodness. I didn't. Wow. He's made his way up, like almost through the whole field. He's Kyle Busch the field. That's what he's done.
Well, let's hope he has a better night than Kyle. As right now, I've got my eye on Thomas Light, Chuck Mobley, and Kendall Levron. They were, of course, at the front of the field as we complete lap 30 here at Daytona. They were up at the front of the field. Now they're having to play catch-up. And Dave, they have got a freight train right now as Kendall Levron is in the 3rd spot out of those 3. And here comes Brian Littleton and Brian Mescal Jr. Let's see how long it takes them to run down these top 5.
Yeah, and keep in mind, I mean, we've seen about a 5-second gap for 4 drivers earlier in the race just disappear with the pack being led by Brian Littleton. So maybe we'll see this little group of cars being led by Thomas Light. Maybe we'll see this group of cars get up there, run down your lead pack. We'll have to wait and see how that all unfolds as we are getting closer and closer to the halfway point in tonight's American Brain Tumor Association 80 for the RFC NEXTGEN Light Electric Company Arca Menards K&N Series. Another driver down slow and off the pace down onto the apron. Looks like that was, I believe that was Melvin Young once again just kind of moving out of the way. As this second pack, Cody, they're already starting to gain on those top four or five drivers.
Yeah, it's not going to take them long as they keep the accordion wound up and together. as Eric Blunt, man, what a good race he had going on. Must have had a speeding penalty as the field goes around him. But I'm watching that second group, Dave. The tighter they can keep those race cars dialed in, the better they are going to be as far as running down this front group. And I would not be surprised to see Thomas and Chuck Mobley take their group to the high side.
And I'm going to look a little further back through the field as it looks like Matthew McMeekin, Dustin Ping, Roy Hyde, Damon Cox, none of those drivers actually able to make up any ground whatsoever during the green flag pit stops. They actually lost a little bit of ground. They find themselves about 25 seconds back behind your race leader. There you see those three drivers all kind of packed up with each other, and they're kind of in no man's land here, Cody. So these three drivers in desperate need of one of those pesky cautions.
Yeah, Dave, if I'm not mistaken, looking at my notes, this is the longest run we have had of the year without a caution. So not to throw the announcer's jink out there, but right now, great job. I know we avoided a big one earlier in the race, but these drivers have done a magnificent job of sorting around this big speedway here at Daytona. And of course, you mentioned halfway. Once we get past halfway, I think we'll start to see that intensity pick up, because you mentioned something. We go to North Wilkesboro next week. Darlington's on the schedule. We've got another huge stretch of racetracks. This might be the best chance for somebody to pick up a win this year. So you may see that intensity pick up a little quicker as we get into that halfway point.
Yeah, and I mean, as we get closer to that halfway point, and then we inch ourselves closer and closer to the end of the race, you can see it right here on your TV screens, computer screens, cell phone screens, whatever you happen to be watching us on here on the YouTube side of things. Falcon Motorsports 1, 2, 3 after these green flag pit stops. Yes, they're teammates. Yes, they're at the front. But when it comes time to win the race, you don't have teammates anymore. It's every man's for himself. And, I mean, just keep in mind who the driver running in fourth right now is. Katie Osmond. He hasn't been to victory lane yet, and I promise you he's going to have something to say about it if he is right there running at the end of this thing. So look for the teammate thing to go out the window, and look for maybe Osmond to pull, I don't know, I don't want to necessarily call it a crazy move here, Cody, but maybe Osmond just says, you know what, why not?
Right. And I mean, he's got a little bit of a points cushion. He's got 39 points ahead of Tyler Hilton, and I'm not seeing Tyler Hilton on the racetrack tonight. So maybe another extra opportunity. You have to go all the way back 49 points to Lance Yancey, and right now he's running 18. So I think you might be right there. Our viewers are probably looking at that number 6 machine thinking, well, Eric Blunt's not showing up on the leaderboard as running in the 5th spot. No, but he's holding on to where if we do get a caution, Dave, he would be the lucky dog.
Yeah, I mean, it's always important to give yourself the best opportunity you have to either win the race or put yourself back onto the lead lap. And I know it gets a little sketchy sometimes when you're not on the lead lap and you're up there mixing it up with the race leaders, but it's what you got to do. And it's what you got to do at a plate track. Sometimes you have to push the race leader for a while, but you got to do what you got to do, and Eric Blount doing exactly what he's got to do, running with this lead pack of cars. And just like that, see, leaders putting a few other drivers a lap down, but guess what? Blount's right there in this train of cars. So he's going to pass them, and he's still going to keep that lucky dog position. So Eric doing exactly what he's got to do to get himself back on the lead lap as easily as he can.
Yeah, and as they put down Travis Arthur and Ray Radford, that puts a couple of cars in between them and the second group, and you might think, well, that's a good thing. Not necessarily, Dave, because, you know, the longer you make that front line of cars, the easier it's going to be for Thomas Light and Chuck Mobley to catch them, because you're going to have more cars to deal with as we start to see things shuffle just a little bit at the front. Brandon Medford, he goes from first back to third.
Yeah, and I think this is a little bit of fuel strategy being played out here by the Falcon Motorsports drivers. You're not going to be able to lead this thing and keep as much fuel as your teammates can keep in the draft, So maybe these teammates being aware, being on the radios with their spotters and crew chiefs, keeping them informed of the fuel situation, and looks like they just did a little bit of a convoy switch there. Gonna let another teammate take the front of the field, maybe run his fuel out a little bit to equal one of his teammates. But this thing stays green here, Cody. And I know I'm thinking way ahead of myself, and people are going to tell me you're crazy for thinking green flag from flag to flag, but we've done it before here in the RFC NEXTGEN Light Electric Company K&N Series, and I think we may be seeing it happen again here tonight. But if this thing happens to go green from here on out, Cody, it's going to put an interesting little fuel strategy, because these guys are right at the point to where they may be able to stretch a run of fuel and make it to the end on just 2 more stops instead of having to make 3 stops. So look for fuel strategy to come into play just like it did last week at Talladega. And while we're talking about all that, look in the background, that second pack, here they come.
Yeah, Dave, here they come. And Thomas Light, Chuck Mobley, Kendall Levron, Brian Littleton are about to start knocking on the back door of Mark Vyers, Ray Radford, and Travis Arthur. Once they start knocking on their back bumper, then they're going to be up to Mike Mason-Gill. He's in the 5th spot. And, Dave, it could get interesting as we cross the halfway point in lap 40 here over the next 3 to 4 laps.
Yeah, and they are there now. Thomas Light getting a little bit squirrely right in front of the 76 of Chuck Mobley. Looks like Derek Robinson, he's going to go up the track, try to see if anybody wants to go to the front with that second lane. Looks like he's got a little bit of help. Looks like Mobley and Light may have jumped out there. That may be the 8 of Kendall Levron. No, the 8 is down there just behind. I believe that's the 4 of Michael Maskin-Gill right there behind Travis Arthur. We've got lapped cars mixed in with lead lap cars here, and this is going to get pretty interesting as cars now starting to move around a little bit more and more, electing to jump to the outside, jump down to the bottom. So look for some positions to get mixed up, and look for things to heat up as we've starting to get side by side once again back at the front of the field.
Dave, we just seen it. We just seen what happened last week. Derek Robertson went from 8th place all the way to 1st on his own. He had no help. Once he got to the outside of that bottom lane, he skyrocketed in front of Chris Mefford, and now he's got his teammate. Now, I will say, Eric Blunt is a lap down, but he's got his teammate behind him. But we've seen it for the 2nd plate race in a row, Dave. A car gets to the outside on their own and just simply goes to the front.
Yeah, and it's got to be the fact that these cars, and they just don't line up. The bumpers don't line up, so the drivers aren't able to push and bump draft as much as we may like to, or as much as we can in the trucks or the Xfinity cars or the Cup cars. So I think that's really hindering the runs on the bottom, and that's what's letting these 1-car, 2-car runs develop on that outside lane.
Yeah, and right now you see the front 2, even though Eric Blunt's a lap down, they got such a run. Thomas Light had to jump back in line because he just simply could not get there. They tried to make a run on the outside. Thomas Light and Chuck Mobley, maybe if they get closer together, they can do so. But I'm just impressed. We've been able to see that now 2 weeks in a row. A driver completely duck out of line and just simply drive to the front. So I love the racing. I love the style. And let's keep that move in our back pocket, Dave, as we work towards the second half of this race.
Yeah, and I think it's all a matter of how you time it on out, because we seen, although he is a lap down machine, the 86 of Travis Arthur, he was a one-man show out there in that outside lane there those last 2 laps, and he just couldn't go anywhere, couldn't move forward, actually had to slot in, I believe, just behind Thomas Quattlebaum Jr. right now. So just because you're out there doesn't mean you're going to make your way to the front. I think you got to time it right. And maybe some of the run on the bottom, maybe some of the cars have to be checking up while that's all going on. Not quite sure how it all works out. You know, I'm no rocket scientist or physicist. I can't even say that word, but you get what I mean.
Yeah, that was a pretty good shot, though. But what we have seen, Dave, is we've seen this field now come as one. And we're talking about all the way back to about 10th place, or really all the way back to 12th place, are now running together. So interesting to see how things shake out. Even we got the mix of a few lap cars dwindled in here with this front group as they start to work through. So interesting to see how things are going to shape out, because definitely looks like everybody is entitled to run at the bottom right now as lap 45 is on the board.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a little bit of house cleaning as we're just past the halfway point here at Daytona International Speedway for the American Brain Tumor Association 80, being sponsored here tonight by the driver of that Ford machine, Michael Massengill. So big shout out and thank you to Mike for sponsoring tonight's race. We started tonight with 26 drivers at the track. We've still got 24 drivers out there running right now. Just Jimmy Hetrick and Brian Kaufman relegated behind the wall and into the haulers. Their nights are over with. We've still got 20 drivers on the lead lap. Travis Arthur being shown as the first driver one lap down. Not quite sure how that's possible, as Eric Blount, he's not in front of the race leader, but somehow they're scoring him back on the lead lap.
Well, my timing and scoring still showing him one lap down, so maybe something is messed up. I've got him running in 20th, one lap down, and Travis Arthur in 21st. So I'm almost certain he is the lucky dog. He has to be, since he is right behind the leaders, but we'll see if timing and scoring shakes out. Dave, coming this time, they come across the line. They will be on lap 20 as far as tires go this past go-around. 20 laps. They pitted at lap 26, 27 the last go-around, so maybe start seeing another round of pit stops here in the next 5-6 laps. And we'll see if that separates this front group, or if, Dave, if this front group tries to all stay together, see if they can keep that track position.
Well, excuse me, I think right now, if I'm anybody inside this, it's a pretty long stretch of cars right here. About 15 cars or so right here in this lead pack. Yes, there are some lap down machines sprinkled in with this long train of cars, but I'm on the horn and I'm like, guys, look, let's just stay straight right now. Let's not push the envelope. We're already past the halfway point here. Let's go ahead, get our second green flag pit stop in. We'll try to break away from some guys again, and then we'll race it out at the end. But let's just stay single file right now. No need to cause any issues and get the whole field caught back up with us with a caution. But, you know, who's willing to play nice? Who's willing to say, you know what, I'll go with that strategy?
Yeah, and another piece of strategy, Dave, we haven't had a caution yet. And we've got Eric Blunt, who right now should be the lucky dog. If his teammate comes to pit road, does that 6 car stay on the racetrack to unlap himself? That will be another piece of strategy we'll have to see, because if that 6 stays out and that 34 comes to pit road, he's going to get his lap back courtesy the hard way of passing the leader, but then he's going to be totally out of sync with his teammate when it comes to trying to finish this race unless we get a caution. So interesting to see what they work out down there in that 6 pit once these cars do start coming to pit road.
Yeah, and actually, I think if I'm the crew chief of that 6 machine, he's a little off cycle right now anyway with having the pit road penalty and things of that nature. If I'm the crew chief on the box for that 6, I'm telling him to come down with his teammate, the 38 of Robinson, just to keep the track position. Yes, you may still end up being that first car 1 lap down, but you're that first car 1 lap down. You know what I mean? You don't want to take a chance in being by yourself and not having any help or any friends. You always want to be back on the lead lap, but you also got to think of what's going to give yourself the best chance. And I think pitting with this lead pack right here with your teammate, I think that's going to give that 6 of Blount the best chance to get back on the lead lap later on in this race.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, you know, here at Daytona, we're used to seeing the warm temperatures Right now, 77 degrees, and the track temperature is 79. So if you have been around these race cars, if the temperature is only 2 degrees less than the track temperature, then these cars are putting out a ton of horsepower. They've got plenty of grip, and I think that's why you're seeing the ability for these cars to move like they are, for the drivers to be able to really handle and put these cars where they want to move them, because, Dave, it plays a very big factor in how these cars handle. Once that temperature starts to get hot, that track temp gets hot, you're going to start to see greasy tires, and once that happens, you start seeing a lot of moving around. Now, they are moving around quite a bit, but I feel like it's under the control of these drivers.
Yeah, I think most of the drivers all have a pretty good handle on their cars here tonight. It looks like all the handling issues are pretty much out of the way. Everybody looks to be nice and smooth on the wheel. Don't see too many hands moving around too awful out there. But with all that being said, Cody, I'm going to throw up the pit strategy or the pit window box over there, as we're right on those numbers for the green flag pit stops. There you see Derek Robinson stayed out 26 laps on his fuel and tires last time before hitting pit road. And now he is working 25 laps on his fuel and tires this time. So look for those green flag pit stops to be happening and underway here in the next 1 to 3 laps.
Yeah, and you're starting to see a lot of drivers work to the bottom of the racetrack. And here comes our leader now, Derek Robertson on pit road. And it looks like Eric Blunt's going to stay out there, Dave, to try to unlap himself.
Yeah, and he stays out, and that's going to put himself back on the lead lap, barely back on the lead lap, just back on the lead lap in front of your race leader now, Thomas Light. And, man, that is a lonely, lonely feeling for that 38 machine of Derek Robinson down onto pit road all alone. He is going to be solo dolo coming off, and it is going to be a tough break for him to try to keep up, man, because when you lose touch by yourself, you lose touch fast.
Yeah, and I don't understand that move now, because Eric Blunt has been passed. Thomas Light has passed him. Chuck Mobley's got around him. So, and now they dive to pit road. So Eric Blunt's going to stay back on the lead lap, as it looks like Mobley and Thomas Light are diving towards pit road now.
Yeah, and it looks like also, I believe, Ray Radford back in the distance. I believe he brought his machine to pit road as well. So Mobley, Light, and Radford all on the pit road. That's going to give the race lead to the 84 of Chris Medford. He's got Thomas Quattlebaum Jr. behind him. Brandon Medford, K.D. Osmond, Michael Massengill round out your top 5.
Yeah, and those all drivers are getting sorted out by some lap traffic. As you see, the 86 of Travis Arthur, he just puts his nose in there. Man, a little squirrely there with Thomas Quattlebaum Jr. as Travis Arthur squeezes up in there and kind of throws a mess at our leaders.
Yeah, no, I mean, keep in mind, Arthur, he's down a lap right now. He's trying to unlap himself, but now going to, I believe he came to pit road that time by. It looks like we've got quite a few drivers on to pit road that time by, as your top 5 continue to stay out on track. And Eric Blount, he continues to stay out there on track to try to keep himself back at the tail end of the lead lap. We'll have to wait and see how it all shakes out for him, but man, oh man, I wonder where Derek Robinson is. Where's he going to track back when everything is said and done, after all these green flag pit stops are said and done with? And Cody, this put us right at the fuel window, 26 laps remaining here at Daytona International Speedway.
Yeah, Dave, and you got to be thinking that Eric Blunt's playing that caution. Oh, no, as they slow down, he's coming to pit road, and, man, they're on the brakes hard.
Taking a look down pit road at the big group of cars that were on the brakes hard, getting onto pit road. Everybody into their box well and clear. Looked like the 19 of Rick Reinert had a little bit of a moment, had to back up just a little bit. We'll go back out on the track with the 76 of Chuck Mobley as he leads the 98 of Thomas Light. And I believe these two drivers will inherit the race lead, as they have already passed that 38 of Derek Robinson and have stepped off from him by about 3 seconds. So there you see the trouble with coming to pit road by yourself. Robinson losing 3 seconds after pitting from the race lead.
Yeah, but Dave, take a look behind Derek Robinson. He might have some help, as it looks like a freight train of cars is coming behind him. Brian Littleton, Kendall Lebron, Brian Maskill Jr. It's going to be a matter to see if they pick up Robinson or not, but I think he still might be able to kind of fall in line with this group, and then we'll see if that group can run down our leaders.
Yeah, and I'm not quite sure that Robinson is going to be able to keep pace with this 80, the 8, as well as the 33 of Brian Maskill Jr. They go around the 77 of Lance Yancey, now making their way around the 45 of Brian Snare, and it looks like Robinson, he's slowly, or not slowly, he's actually getting the job done. He's staying right there in front of that 80 now. That trio of cars making their way around the 38 of Robinson, so put Littleton right there knocking on the door of the top 5. Chuck Mobley now leads the race. Thomas Light just behind him. Brandon Medford in third. Chris Medford fourth. Katie Osmond round out your top 5. In the front of the field is all back together pretty much as one once again.
Yeah, they are, Dave, and they are prowling a few more lap cars now, as it looks like the 24 of Matthew McMeekin has moved in there, and also Gordon Larson Jr. and Damon Cox have latched on to the front of the cars. So now this group is going to grow tremendously, not only because you're going to see about the top 10 cars running together, but you're going to have a mix of lap cars in there as well, Dave, and that is going to make our leaders a little bit more nervous as we have lap 58 now on the board.
Yeah, with just 23 laps remaining, your top 2 drivers have about a 5-second gap over a big pack of cars, a hungry pack of cars. There's about 7 or 8 of them lined up or getting lined up right now as we speak, and they are already clicking off the distance between themselves and the front 2. So Chuck Mobley and Thomas Light, although they have help with some lap machines right here, they are going to have to get them to play nice and get in line if they're going to want to keep themselves in front of the hard-charging Littleton, Lebron, Maskill, Jr., Medford, as well as Robinson.
Yeah, they're going to have to get things sorted out, Dave. Right now, this group is moving around a lot, and the more they move around, the front group, I'm saying, the more they move around, the quicker this second group is going to catch them. As Damon Cox, he's going to make a run to the outside. Let's see what that 57 can do on its own, as it is to the back bumper of Thomas Light now in turn 3.
Yeah, and you know, now that you mentioned Damon Cox, I'm looking through the timing and scoring and waiting as long as he did to come to pit road. Eric Blount has fell through the standings all the way to the 20th position, or actually that's where he was running, but he is well out of that lucky dog position, as now Damon Cox running in that 12th spot. There you see him just to the outside of Thomas Light, now running in that lucky dog position. So Cody, fast in, no pun intended, fast and furious pace here at Daytona International Speedway. Green flag racing the entire night, 21 laps remaining, and we have only got 11 drivers on the lead lap vying for this race win. We've got 2 drivers out here right now at the front of the field, and we've got about 7 closing in, and man, they are coming fast.
Yeah, Dave, they are, and as I mentioned, you've got Gordon Larson Jr., Roy High, Dustin Ping, Damon Cox. They're all racing side by side. That is a battle for position, so they've got to race each other. But if you're Chuck Mobley and you're Thomas Light, you're telling those guys, hey, get in the line because we're about to be freight trained. And I'm telling you what, that group of Brian Littleton, Kendall Lebron, Brian Maskill Jr., and now Derek Robinson, if they get things organized, they are going to be right there in the mix in no time. And I tell you what, he may be a lap down. I'm talking Eric Blunt. But, Dave, he is right back on the back bumper of his teammate as they dive into turn 3.
Yeah, and I'm looking at this long train of cars. If they were to just get single file and play nice, I don't think that lead pack would have anything for them. I don't think there would be any holding this pack off right now. And I think those 2 drivers, I think Robinson and Blount's actually hurting this run just a little bit. but there is still quite a handful of laps remaining. 19 laps left to go here tonight from Daytona International Speedway in the American Brain Tumor Association 80 here on the Turn 3 Racing Network. Man, I tell you what, it's been one heck of a night. Looks like fuel strategy may possibly come into play here, Cody. Driver's going to be right there on the cusp of making it to the end. So who's going to be saving? Who's just going to be all out, full throttle? And will this second pack, being led by Brian Littleton and Kendall Levron, will they have enough time? Will they have enough in the tank to get up here and take away or challenge Chuck Mobley and Thomas Light?
Well, Dave, right now our leaders are under attack, and it's not from position. It's cars trying to unlap themselves. Gordon Larson Jr. and Roy Hyde just passed Chuck Mobley. They've unlapped themselves, Dave, and they've got Dustin Pink, Damon Cox, and also Matthew McKinnon. He's trying to do the same thing, and our leaders are under attack. And in the meantime, the dogs are prowling as Derek Robertson and Brian Littleton are side by side, and they've got their own battle going for third on back.
Yeah, and just that last lap, those that second pack of drivers making up just a little over 1 second on your top two runners, Chuck Mobley and Thomas Light, as they are stuck right here behind some lap machines, some drivers mixing it up, battling it out, trying to get themselves back onto the lead lap the good old-fashioned way, just in case we do have one of those late race cautions. Haven't seen that yellow flag fly yet tonight here at Daytona International Speedway, and I know a few of these drivers are praying that they just drop the flag on the track and have to cause a caution, have to have a yellow flag, because there's no possible way they're going to do anything without one.
Oh, yeah, Dave, most definitely, but I don't think I have ever seen this. The leaders are literally boxed in. They have nowhere to go. They're on the bottom. They've got lap cars in front of them. They've got lap cars to the outside of them, and now they literally find themselves boxed in behind 4 cars that are unlapping themselves. And in the meantime, they have got trouble burning up off of turn number 2 as a whole pack of drivers try to run them down, Dave. But I'm kind of like you. I feel like Derek Robertson and Eric Blunt are hurting this second pack, because I felt like they would have been there, because the leaders are trapped in that lap traffic.
Yeah, I mean, they've made up about a half a second this last lap, even still. So, I mean, they're making up the ground. They're going to get there. They're going to have some time when they get there, but looking at the way these race leaders have just kind of been boxed in up here at the front, I'm afraid that when they get there, they're not going to have anywhere to go, and this is just going to be one giant old mess at the front.
Yeah, Dave, and old business is picking up with an old line Darrell Waltrip used to use. That second pack catches this first group, it is going to be business big time, because you're going to see one big pack of cars blended together, as now it looks like those cars that have unlapped themselves have decided to go single file. So, Dave, let's see if this makes it or breaks it, but I don't think it's going to happen. Here comes Brian Littleton, Kendall Levron, and the freight train is steaming by Thomas Light.
Yeah, I was going to say they got single file, but it's a little too late, because that second pack is here. Brian Littleton jumped to the outside. Thomas Light tried to block the move, wasn't able to get out there in time, and now that 80 is setting sail, and he is heading to the front. As a matter of fact, he has already passed that 76 of Chuck Mobley, so put the lead back into the hands of the driver of the 80 machine, Brian Littleton, as that outside lane surges back to the front. And I believe the front 4 or 5 cars on that inside lane are all a lap down. So Brian Littleton sitting in a very good spot right now, leading that outside lane. I mean, that was a heck of a move.
Yeah, now he's going to dive down to the bottom. His teammate, one of his teammates, Damon Cox, is a lap down. That's a good idea. That's going to open the door for Thomas Light. Light's to the outside. He's got Kendall Levron, Derek Robinson behind him. And now the battle for the lead is side by side. The 80 of Brian Littleton, the 98 of Thomas Light, and the leaders going down the back straightaway. Dave, it looks like a parade lap at 200 miles per hour.
Yeah, all the drivers back with each other. Once again, your top 11 all right there, all within about a 1 second of each other, about a second and a half or so, give or take a tenth or two, depending on when they cross the scoring line. But anyways, all these drivers, this big old pack, back at the front of the field, mixing it up for the race lead. 12 laps remaining here tonight at Daytona International Speedway for the RFC Next-Gen Light Electric Company, Arca Menards, K&N Series, American Brain, Tumor Association 80. Cody, man, I tell you what, for a halfway point in the season, this race is it is not letting me down one bit.
No, it is not, Dave, and we are starting to see that business pick up. We've got lap cars, we've got lead lap cars, all duking it out, but Dave, they are all here roaring off of turn 4.
Big pack of cars roar off of turn 4. We've got a few back markers just in front of them. What's going to happen when they get there? Will we see just 2 wide, or will we see a little bit of 3 wide action for a moment as the race leaders continue to battle side by side through turns 1 and 2? Littleton still leads the line on the bottom with help from his teammate 1 lap down, Damon Cox Field, halfway down the backstretch.
Yeah, this time by 10 laps to go. It's pretty much one of those kind of situations where you've got what you got, Dave. If fuel strategy is going to come into play, then it's going to come into play and ruin somebody's night, because I don't see anybody ducking off and taking a bid right now as we've got 10 laps to go to decide this thing. Brian Littleton now, looks like Damon Cox going to lead in side draft just a little off of Thomas Light. Doesn't really affect that 98 machine too much as he noses back out front, Dave, and they are into the 4-lap traffic.
And there goes the back markers, 3 wide at the top. Field making their way through. Looks like no problem there for Thomas Light or Kendall Levron. They're going to make their way around the back markers, still side by side with all the drivers on the inside lane. Damon Cox continues to try to help his teammate win this race. The 57 is 1 lap down, running second car inside lane, but his teammate just in front of him. Littleton trying to make it back to victory lane. Can Thomas Light put his number 98 Light Electric Company Arca Menards K&N Series car into victory lane? Can he take the title sponsor to the race win? We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, we will have to wait and see, but I'm telling you what, we've got some hungry drivers up front right now. Brian Littleton, he's not went to victory lane. Thomas Light, he's not went to victory lane. Kendall Levron's not went to victory lane. Dave, somebody is hunting for their first win and a little bit of momentum for the second half of the season, but Littleton and Light just cannot get away from each other as they've got 8 laps to go.
And I wonder if the not being able to bump, if the bumper's not lining up, I wonder if that's crossing through anybody's mind on what they're going to do at the end of this race, how they're going to get that run to maybe spoil the race. How are they going to do this? Are they going to try to stick it 3 wide, maybe 4 wide? Or is maybe one of these teammates right here, maybe Brian Littleton says, you know what, Damon, push. Just push. I don't care what happens. This is the only way it's going to happen, so might as well do it. But we're going to have to wait and see, man. It's going to be crazy.
Well, the other factor is these drivers that are about 6th on back, this roadblock, they're going to have to find a way to get through it, and it could be a matter of fact of maybe creating their own line. It's a little bit of contact there from Brian Mescal Jr. and Rick Reiner, gets him out of shape. But these drivers that are still back here, like Brandon Medford, Chris Medford, Brian Mescal Jr., in order for them to get to the front, they've got to have their own lane.
Yeah, and right now there's just, there's pretty much nowhere to go. I mean, yes, you can go 3 wide. These cars do move around quite a bit, so maybe 3 wide not quite as good of an option just yet as we work our way down the backstretch. On lap number 7 going into turn number 3, Littleton and Light still lead their respective lanes. Now that inside lane pulling forward as Littleton surges about a car length in front of the entire field. Now the outside lane working its way back. Thomas Light right there at the line. Ooh, give that lap to Thomas Light. My gosh, that was close.
Yeah, and I think Littleton's noticing that the last lap. He gets the lead off of 2. He carries the lead down the backstretch, but off of turn 4, Thomas Light has the momentum. Now, why do I say he's paying attention to that? Because I look for him to squeeze Thomas Light a little higher, maybe coming off of 4 here in the closing laps, Dave, as they work down the back straightaway and into turn 3. We are coming to 5 laps to go.
Yeah, something I always tried to do is something that I heard Dale Earnhardt Jr. speak about when it comes to drafting and racing at these tracks. And that's if you're on the outside, you want to move up and push that outside car as close to being into the wall as you possibly can. And when you're running on the outside, you want to pin or pinch that inside lane down, as it looks like a driver into the outside wall. As Chuck Mobley went to pit road last time by, so he's not thinking he's got enough gas. But you're always wanting to try to pinch the drivers around you down or up without messing your run up, just to give you as big of a run as you can have. And it looks like, big time moment there as Dustin Ping went to go 3 wide for just a brief moment. Everybody gets back in line as things starting to get a little bit more dicey at the front of the field as we cross the line. 5 laps to go.
Yeah, Brian Mescal Jr. had a heck of a run. He was going through the middle as he got up to the inside fender of Dustin Ping. He squeezed down just enough, and Mescal Jr. had to let out of it. But he had the middle, Dave. It was moving. He was all the way up to the door panel of his teammate Damon Cox before he kind of got squeezed and had to go back. But that's what I'm saying. These drivers like Chris Mefford, Brandon Mefford, they're getting impatient, Dave, and here comes the middle. Chris Mefford, he's going through the middle, and right behind him's Thomas Quattlebaum Jr.
3 wide, 2 rows deep. Now make it just 3 wide, 1 row deep. Somebody was going to have to make that move sometime, and it looks like it has started. 3 laps to go here at Daytona International Speedway. Will it stay green to the end? We'll have to wait and see. Drivers jockeying for position, trying to get the best run that they can here at the end of tonight's American Brain Tumor Association 80 live on the Turn 3 Racing Network. Thomas Light continues to run that outside lane. Here comes another run by Chris Medford. 3 wide, almost 4 wide going into Turn 3.
Thomas Light literally shut the door on Chris Medford on the high side. He's created a pileup for the top 2 lanes, but on the bottom, it is Brian Littleton showing the way. He's got 2 laps to go. This time I own contact. Trouble. Lebron into the wall. Also, it looks like Thomas Light, Rick Reinert. Here's the big one, Dave. Mike Mason-Gill as they pile them up, coming across the line.
Oh, my goodness. A lot of drivers involved. Oh, we'll take a look back there. You see tons of drivers being caught up in this one. I don't even know how many Thomas Light involved. Looks like the 24's involved. Oh, my goodness. McMeekin involved in this one, I believe. Michael Massengill also involved. Travis Arthur. Oh, my goodness. A ton of drivers involved in this one. Man, the big one happened. It happened late. Rick Reinert, no front end on his machine either. Oh, my goodness. Cody, the dreaded yellow flag flies late. And when it flies, it took out, I believe, half of the field on the lead lap. So this is going to put us in a green-white checkered situation. And I wonder if these drivers have enough fuel. Or will maybe Chuck Mobley in that 76, will he be looking like the genius? Because he hit pit road. He wasn't around that crash, and he's not going to have to hit pit road this time. Man, I'll tell you what, things just got shooken up pretty severely.
Dave, let me tell you, who just came out of that looking like a shiny nickel? Katie Osmond did not have 1 single inch of damage on that 88 Sundrop car. He rolled through that. He looks like he's going to come out of that and go to second when we go back racing. but I went back and watched that replay thanks to the Turn 3 Racing Network. 83, that 83 being Brandon Mefford, just kind of got into the inside fender just enough of Thomas Light to get him moving. Kendall Levron was up on the high side. It looks like he really didn't have anywhere to go. He got pinched up against the 84 of Chris Mefford rather. So just nowhere to go. A lot of cars fighting for the lead. And Dave, you mentioned it, almost the entire lead lap is now damaged.
Yeah, and there's a lot of drivers with a lot of damage. We're seeing the 45 of Brian Snare. I'm not sure how he's making his way around the track right now. The hood flipped up on his windshield, so the spotter giving him some good directions to get around the track right now. But looks like the leaders all hit pit road. Brian Littleton, Brian Mescal Jr., Katie Osmond, Derek Robinson, Kendall Levron, all on to pit road. Thomas Quattlebaum Jr. will inherit the race lead, but he stayed out on the track. So, ooh-wee, not quite sure. And it looks like the 77 of Lance Yancey looks like he's going to get a big shot in the arm here late in the race. Looks like he's going to get a wave around to get himself back onto the lead lap and give himself another shot at a race win. And with all that being said, Cody, and as everybody gets everything situated and figured out for their running orders, we're going to step away for a brief commercial break. So don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back with all your green flag racing action live here from Daytona International Speedway.
Growing up as a kid in Oklahoma, where I'm from, the Chili Bowl is the biggest race that we have. The Chili Bowl has kind of been my favorite race of the year. Growing up a dirt racer in Oklahoma, that's kind of the holy grail.
We got big time problems with that motor, buddy. Hey, just between you and me, the idea is to avoid the other cars. Congratulations! You just set the sport back 30 years with that move. That move will put you in the Hall of Shame.
Caution lights are off on the Chevy Silverado pace truck. Sorry about the commercial mix-up there. A little bit of misfortune and mistiming on my end, but nonetheless going to bring you all the green flag racing action from the track here at Daytona International Speedway in the American Brain Tumor Association 80 Chevy Silverado pace truck. Down and away, Quattlebaum Jr. nails the gas. Katie Osmond moves to the front, moves to that second spot, now looks to the outside of Quattlebaum Jr. Here comes Littleton and Mescal Jr.
Yeah, Dave, all kinds of damage to the back of Quattlebaum Jr. I think that's why you're seeing him just pretty much pull the parachute. But now, take a look. Who did we throw in trouble? Chuck Mobley gets into the back of Derek Robinson. Will it bring out a caution? I don't think so. He's going to get it straightened back out. Man, oh man, Chuck Mobley got the bumper of Derek Robinson, and what I was saying was Katie Osmond, our points leader, coming in. We were talking about him in the pre-race show, and now he's under attack. Brian Littleton's back out front, and here comes Mescal Jr.
Brian Littleton puts his Dirty Air Racing number 80 down to the bottom of the track at the lead of the field. Gonna race his teammate now side by side as Brian Maskell Jr. tries to get his 33 machine up there and battle his teammate for the race win. White flag is out. Final lap here at Daytona International Speedway. Brian Littleton leads the field back into turn number 1. The 80 of Katie Osmond right there on his heels. Chuck Mobley right there in third.
3 drivers hunting for their first checkered flag of the year. Katie Osmond goes to the outside. Chuck Mobley's going to go with him. The momentum's going to send the 88 Sundrop machine to the lead. Final time in turns 3 and 4.
Osmond back down to the bottom of the track. That leaves Mobley up high. The 80 of Brian Littleton surging, trying to get back to the 88. The 88 comes off of turn number 4 through the tri-oval. It's a drag race. Osmond goes around. Oh my goodness. I don't even know who crossed the stripe first. Let's take another look at that one coming across the line.
It looks like it may still be Katie Osmond.
Oh my goodness, that was a hard hit there. My goodness, let's take one more look at that, as I believe you are right, Cody. I believe Osmond, even though with that hard hit, I believe he still crossed the line first. Osmond goes around. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, Dave, if he pulls off the win, it's not by much.
Whew. I don't know who the race officials are going to give that race win to. Looks like Katie Osmond is going to be the one that gets the race win. And as he limps his machine back around carrying the cone right there, you see it on screen. We're going to step away for just a brief moment, get our post-race interview set up and ready to go. So don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back. back track side after another crazy finish to another great plate race here in the RFC Next Gen Lady Electric Company ARCA Menards K&N Series. Man, oh man, Cody, it has been one heck of a night, and I believe you have had a chance to catch up with the driver finishing in third here tonight.
I have, Dave. We are down here with Chuck Mobley. Man, Chuck, what a race. Hammer Down Motorsports tonight was hammered down. You and Thomas Light had a great run throughout most of this race here at Daytona. Kind of got shuffled out there on that late race caution, but man, we're talking only a few feet away from picking up your first win of the season, man. So close, but you got to be excited on how the second half of the season has started. You there, Chuck?
Yeah, it was a great race all the way up till the end there, and it was clean, and we had a very fast car. Me and Thomas were working together real good, and you're not going to believe what happened to me. We went into the pits on that last pit stop, and for some reason the game only gave me 9 gallons of gas. So I had to come down and pit. And fortunately, I stayed in front of everybody, and there was a caution there late, and I was able to come up through there. But I had it right there. I had the momentum on him. My other teammate, was behind me, pushing me, and I think we would have got that victory this time.
Yeah, man, you most definitely had a solid run off of turn 4. It looked like if you could have avoided kind of what happened there at the start, I felt like you had a good enough run to make it happen. Tell us a little bit about these race cars. You know, the bumpers just don't match up. And at these plate tracks, you want to bump, you want to push, you want to draft. Tell us about how difficult it is to race a race like tonight and just not make mistakes.
Yeah, it's difficult, especially if you run the cup cars at any time on these tracks, because if the cup cars line up good, you can make a little mistake in the cup car and not turn the guy. But these cars, you cannot touch anybody anywhere in the back, or they will spin out. And I think that's probably what happened right there. It's common, very common to happen. And this is a tough track. It's a bumpy track, and for as bad as it was, the track and the conditions, I think everybody did a fantastic job in this race.
Well, Chuck, Hammer Down Motorsports had a good showing tonight, a good solid finish, your first top 5 of the season. Tell us about the folks on the side of that race car.
Yeah, we practiced a lot, me and Thomas and a few other guys, and just sometimes you come up short. But I'm happy to be in a podium for once, and I appreciate you guys having me here.
Our third place finisher tonight, Chuck Mobley. Great showing, Dave, and look forward to seeing how the rest of his second half of his season turns out.
Yeah, Chuck with a great finish to the race here tonight. And that's going to lead us to the driver that almost walked away with his first win, just not quite working out that way, still getting beat out by an upside down and on fire 88. We're going to talk to the driver finishing in second, the 80 of Brian Littleton. It's Dave in the booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir, ma'am.
Hey, man. Man, inches away from your first win here in the RFC Next Gen Light Electric Company ARCA Menards K&N Series. That's got to be tough.
Yeah, well, you know how these are. These are crapshoots, so I really don't ever go into these plate races thinking or expecting a whole lot. So I think as any time you can come out a plate track with a top 5 or even a top 10 finish, you're doing good. So we'll take the good points day and we'll move on.
Now, coming to the end of the race, you guys were closing in on the 2 leaders there. You made your way to the front. Caution flag flies. What goes through your mind?
Definitely did not want to see that. I kind of wanted to see that go green the rest of the way to see how it played out. Felt like we had a good car, but it is what it is. Finished the way we finished. It was still a good night. I think most of the Dirty Air boys did pretty decent for the night, so we'll take the good points week.
All right, my man. Well, you were able to walk away with a second here tonight. Had a pretty decent finish if I'm remembering at Talladega last week. So you're walking away through the plate gauntlet that we run here pretty well. So with all that being said there, Mr. Littleton, you want to give any shout-outs, thank yous, love yous, thank anybody on the side of that car?
Yeah, we'll thank Light Electric for the sponsors for this series throughout the season. Appreciate that. Definitely a shout out to Troy and Jags. They're both a little under the weather for various reasons, so we're going to tell them to get better as soon as they can. Thanks to you guys, what you're doing up in the booth. As always, I'll be listening to this broadcast tomorrow at work. The Dirty Air race team, big shout out to them and the Muddy Water crew, everybody helping out, the friends and family that watch these broadcasts. Really appreciate it.
All right, well, there you have it. Some few and final words from the driver finishing in the second position out there tonight. And Cody, I believe you've had a chance to catch up with our race winner.
Yeah, Dave, we are in Gatorade Victory Lane, and for the first time this season, crazy to say that, but for the first time this season, for the fifth time in his RFC NEXTGEN Light Electric Company R&D Series career, KD Osmond came in as the points leader. Man, halfway through the season, I would have lost a lot of money saying you had not been to Victory Lane so far, but man, you finally get the monkey off your back, and well, you did it very creatively tonight.
Yeah, I mean, talk about a hell of a way to get the victory. But man, I don't really do well at Daytona ever, and I was expecting the bump there at the end, but I'm just so happy to walk away with it here. I got so lucky there.
Well, man, it has been it's been one of those years. You came in tonight leading 192 laps, by far the most of anyone out there this season, but just not able to seal the deal with a victory. You've got close multiple times. We come through the halfway point. This is now the second half of the season with some tracks coming up like North Wilkesboro, Martinsville here in the next few weeks. You got to be happy to finally get a little bit of momentum now as you start down the home stretch.
Yeah, definitely. And, I've always said it's really not about the wins. It's about, the top fives, podiums and stuff. And I've gotten so many of those. I think I've just missed out on one top five this season, and that was last week at Dega. But, if I could just keep these top fives rolling, I think I'll be set for the rest of the season pretty much.
Well, man, that's some dangerous words for everybody else. But you kind of, you just stayed there. I know we had that big incident, and the broadcast, I was telling Dave, once that big incident happened and we was just patiently waiting on it, once it happened on the front straightaway, I went back and checked the replay, and I'm like, look here, look at this shiny nickel that just rolled through here and didn't get any damage at all, and it was that 88 Sundrop machine. So tonight you missed the big one, and it pays off here with a big win at Daytona.
Yeah, definitely. That first wreck, that was probably luckier than getting the win, actually, because, all the damage just happened out of my way. I was able to just keep it on the apron and just fly through there. But yeah, super lucky to get away with that with no damage. But yeah, just awesome win tonight.
Well, man, I know you got a lot of folks on that race team. You got a lot of folks on that race car. Tell us about all of them.
Yep, as always, sponsor Ohio and Indiana Roofing Company. They're amazing. My teammates, Mike Massingill had a top 10, I think. I think that's the first of his season, so really nice job there. Dustin and Brian weren't so lucky, I don't think, but we were having a good run there. But yeah, thank you to my family for watching. Thank you to everyone in this league. It was a really awesome race for Daytona, and thank you guys for broadcasting.
Congratulations. First win of the season, fifth career win in the series. And Dave, I'm telling you what, he makes a point that top fives and top tens and podiums are very important. If he gets on a streak, Dave, it's going to be hard to pull the championship away from him.
Yeah, it's hard enough right now for these guys to deal with and handle KD Osmond without him going to victory lane. Now with a victory in his pocket, without his closest competition out on track tonight, Tyler Hilton unfortunately not being able to make it to track tonight. Osmond just going to pad that points lead even more, and will we see him continue I don't want to necessarily say or call it his dominance, but will we see him continue to assert his consistency throughout the rest of the season or the second half of the season and walk away with a championship? That's all yet to be determined and to unfold. But Cody, man, another great race.
Yeah, Dave. I mean, we almost went commercial free. Well, we did actually almost go commercial free, but almost caution free here in this 80-lap feature tonight from Daytona. But Dave, before we get to the results, I wanted to put this in perspective. The top 10 in points right now, 8 drivers have a victory this season. Out of the top 10 in points, 8 drivers have went to victory lane, which is totally insane. Only one driver on the active roster has 2 wins, Dave. This time last year, we were talking about 3, 4, and 5 wins for some drivers, but this year, everything has kind of evened out a little bit. Yes, Katie Osmond does have somewhat of a padded points lead, but all of these drivers in now the top 15 are within 100 points of that top spot, and that's crazy to think with 9 races still to go.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Last year it was a matter of who was going to win the most races out of a handful of drivers, and this year it's like the competition has stepped up a little bit, and they're not allowing those repeat wins to take place. The competition a little bit stiffer, some fresher faces that are being a little stingier with the position. So this season, a long drawn-out battle, and we have still got a long drawn-out battle ahead of ourselves. 9 races to go, as you already said, Cody. So this championship, well from over yet, and we'll have to wait to see if Katie Osmond can put that 88 machine back in victory lane once again. With all that being said, it looks like we're down to some official business. So why don't we go ahead and give you your unofficial race results from Daytona International Speedway for the American Brain Tumor Association 80, brought to you by Michael Massengill here on the Turn 3 Racing Network, walking away with the first win of the season. Finally, that 88 of K.D. Osmond goes to victory lane. Finishing in the second spot, the 80 of Brian Littleton, and rounding out your podium here tonight, the 76 of Chuck Mobley. Brian Skull Jr. going to finish in 4th. 5th goes to Thomas Light. Damon Cox going to finish in 6th. In the 38 of Derek Robinson going to finish in 7th. 8th place goes to Thomas Quattlebaum Jr., while your race sponsor, Michael Massengill, finishes in 9th. Rounding out your top 10 will be the 77 of Lance Yancey.
Finishing in the 11th spot and last car on the lead lap tonight, the number 8 of Kendall Leveron. Brian Snare, another solid run for him in the top 15. He'll finish 12th. The number 3 of Mark Fires, he comes home in 13th. Eric Blunt in his number 6 machine, he finishes 14th. Roy Hyde will round out the top 15, finishing 15th. It was Gordon Larson Jr. in his 01 machine coming home 16th. Ray Radford in his 47, 17th. Chris Mefford rounded out the top 18 in the 84 machine. Brandon Mefford in 19th, and Dustin Ping will round out the top 20.
Rick Reinert in the 19 gonna finish in the 21st position. Travis Arthur in the 86 gonna walk away with 22nd. 23rd will go to the 24 of Matthew McMeek. In the 10 of Melvin Young gonna finish in 24th. Jimmy Hetrick, after early trouble here tonight, relegated to the 25th spot, and after some mechanical issues kept the 7 of Brian Kaufman from making the starting grid, he will walk away in the 26th and final finishing position here tonight. So with all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, from myself, Darkside Dave in the Cave here in the Turn 3 Racing Network booth, and my good buddy Cody, we appreciate you stopping by once again. Look forward to catching you throughout the week here on the Turn 3 Racing Network. So stay safe, stay loved. Till next time, we'll see you again.